Deer season is a long-standing tradition that brings families and friends together each fall. Wisconsin bow and crossbow hunters have been out after deer for 2 months already, and with several firearms deer seasons fast approaching, it's time to review what has changed since last season and take a look at this year's hunting opportunities. I'm Dan Small. I'll be your host as we focus on the tradition of deer hunting, get expert advice on recruiting new hunters, look at efforts to combat chronic wasting disease, and provide a hunt forecast for each area of the state. Welcome to Deer Hunt Wisconsin 2019. While the tradition of gun deer season remains strong, deer hunting has changed over the years. Most hunters still get out on opening day, but fewer hunters now spend the entire season with friends and family in deer camp. Hunting styles have changed too. More hunters now sit in comfortable blinds waiting for deer to come to them, and fewer hunters conduct drives or still hunt. Another factor that has caused some hunters to change their practice of shooting only mature bucks is the spread of chronic wasting disease, or CWD, as hunter, landowner, and conservationist Doug Dern explains.
When CWD was first discovered south of us, about 70 miles, there was a big concern about it. We had hoped that it would be a long time before CWD reached us here. That happened last year. Our first positive was last year. We'd been testing all of our deer for the last 4 years, 5 years. Shows us that the disease is expanding. And now our prevalence countywide is about 12 to 13%. There are hot spots in the southern part of the county where it's closer to 50%. I would like to be a part of preventing that kind of prevalence showing up here. Part of the reason we're doing that is to hopefully slow that disease down, because really all we can do is buy time and pay for science. And so now my only rule is an ethical shot and please fill your buck tag. Trying to reduce the population, trying to reduce the demographic that's most apt to spread CWD. I've invited a lot more hunters onto our property, and quite honestly, that's been a positive as well. I've gotten to meet a whole lot of new folks and really started to enjoy that. But if I'm going to call myself a conservationist, it was time to abandon that buck management mentality when that is the demographic that's spreading the disease. We're shooting bucks now that 10 years ago, you'd have worn the sombrero or even been run off the farm for shooting. Changing that mentality has kind of taken us back to the joy of deer hunting that we used to have. There's no more, oh, is it big enough? Oh, I shouldn't be shooting that deer. When what we're really doing is concentrating on ethical shots, no matter what deer it is. Because this property's been in my family for 115 years, and I'm the steward of this generation, I really look at conservation of this land and really of this area of, it's not ours, it's just our turn. Chronic wasting disease fits right into that. When I was a kid, deer hunting was something that we loved to do, enjoyed. There weren't a lot of deer. To shoot any buck was a big deal. And then we went through that whole arc of time of, the big bucks, the huge deer herds, all of that. And now this is the next part of it. But over my 45 years of deer hunting, I've really felt like I've seen it all, and this is the next challenge. And I think, well, who's taking care of the next generation, of the next opportunity? It's not ours, it's just our turn. Should be making sure that the next generation gets the opportunity to say and do that as well. After all these years, it's still magical for me to see a white-tailed deer in the woods, to have the opportunity to hunt them, to have the opportunity to eat them. It's a part of our landscape, it's a part of our culture, it's a part of our heritage. It's ingrained in us.
Hunter numbers are declining, but seasoned hunters willing to share their expertise can help stem the decline by becoming a mentor for a new hunter. Here's Terry Rarig, a woman who is active as a hunter, mentor, and delegate to both the Wisconsin Conservation Congress and the Buffalo County Deer Advisory Council, to share her thoughts on mentoring.
I got started hunting when I was actually in my early 20s. I grew up in a hunting home but never went hunting, and one of my boyfriends at the time decided to take me out for a deer hunt, and I was hooked from then on. I got involved with mentoring and the Learn to Hunt programs here in Wisconsin when a warden in Calumet County came to me and asked me to help out with the local Learn to Turkey hunt. They had over 50% women enrolled in the course and asked me to come as a role model. So I was able to help out with the hunter education part of that program, and then I was able to take out a young girl on the Learn to Turkey hunt. From there, I got interested in obviously upland game because I was upland game hunting, and I started actually the Learn to Pheasant Hunt program with the St. Anne Sportsman's Club. And then from there, I was involved at Oxbow Sportsman's Club in Hilbert and started up the Learn to Pheasant Hunt program there as well. So I had a lot of fun and had a lot of success with that. The satisfaction and enjoyment I get out of this is, one, I never had children of my own, so being able to help other children and being able to share the love of the outdoors and how much you can actually get out of the outdoors. That it's bigger than just harvesting an animal. There's so much more out there. Enjoying the day in the field with your dog, even though you may never get anything, just being out there and watching your dog work. That's what drives me, and just having that alone time with the birds and all the animals that are out there. There's a whole new world out there.
The Midwest Outdoor Heritage Education Expo, or MOHE, is held each May at the McKenzie Environmental Education Center near Poynette. MOHE introduces 4th through 7th graders from around the Midwest to many aspects of the outdoor lifestyle.
We appreciate the media coverage for the Midwest Outdoor Heritage Education Expo, but don't just take my word for it. Enjoy the sights and sounds for yourself as these students, chaperones, and teachers discover the connection with nature. This emphasis on R3, recruitment, retention, reactivation, is great. And people see the activity here where we're introducing these youth to outdoor skills.
One very key thing to make sure is that your experience, be it hunting, fishing, deer, turkey, bluegills, whatever it is connected to another experience. So the whole connection along the outdoor recreation adoption model, from awareness to interest to a trial to continuation. This is what's important to remember, that we need to remain connected. So events like this are really that important first step. Hunting and angling are widely dominated by white males, and this opportunity at MOHE to attract and educate and interest a diverse crowd in coming generations is important, because our family structure, our society is changing demographically rapidly.
These kids don't have mentors at home. It's not like it was when I was growing up 40 years ago. We had someone that was always there, grandpa and dad, and some of these kids don't have dads. This is the first mentorship experience at outdoor activities that they have probably had. And it's the only place they're going to get it, quite frankly.
You'll find all the deer hunting regulations on the DNR website and in the 2019 Deer Hunting Regulations booklet. But let's cover the basics here. You can purchase your license and select your antlerless tags, now called harvest authorizations, through the Go Wild system online or from a licensing agent. With each deer hunting license, you'll receive 1 buck harvest authorization valid in any unit statewide, and 1 or more farmland zone antlerless deer harvest authorizations valid in the deer management unit and land type of your choice. You no longer have to validate a carcass tag in the field or attach it to your deer, but while hunting, you must still carry proof that you have a license and the appropriate harvest authorizations for the area where you're hunting and the type of deer, buck or antlerless, that you shoot. This can be in the form of a Go Wild conservation card, your authenticated Wisconsin driver's license, printed copies of your license and harvest authorizations, or a digital copy of these documents displayed on a smartphone or tablet. For smartphone users, the DNR Hunt Wild app makes all these steps easier, even in the field. With each license they purchase, youth hunters ages 17 and under will receive a junior antlerless deer tag, valid for taking one antlerless deer in any unit statewide. Youth hunters are not required to specify the zone or unit, but they must indicate whether they plan to hunt private or public access land. There are special opportunities for Class A and C disabled hunters as well, and these are spelled out in the regulations and online. Bonus antlerless harvest authorizations went on sale in August, and they may be sold out for some units and land types. They may be purchased at the rate of one per day until the unit is sold out or the season ends. All deer taken must be registered by 5 p.m. on the day after harvest, and you'll need your harvest authorization number to do that. You can register a deer easily online or by phone. Instructions are printed right on the harvest authorization tag. You may also register a deer at participating walk-in stations. Search for these on the DNR website or look for one of these deer registration signs. This year, the 9-day firearms deer season runs from November 23rd through December 1st. The muzzleloader season runs for 10 days immediately following the gun season, December 2nd through the 11th. In all Metro Zone subunits, the firearms season runs through December 11th. Some Metro subunits offer free antlerless harvest authorizations, so check the regulations for these changes before you hunt. The 4-day statewide December antlerless deer hunt will run from December 12th through the 15th. The antlerless only holiday hunt runs from December 24th through January 1st in all or part of the 29 farmland zone counties shown on this map. To participate, you or someone in your party must have an unused antlerless harvest authorization for the unit where you're hunting. With an estimated 1.8 million deer on the landscape statewide, more and longer hunting opportunities than ever, and an abundance of antlerless harvest opportunities, all indications point to a great deer season this year. Despite some areas of deep snow and cold temperatures, last winter didn't really settle in until late January, and it didn't have a great impact on our deer herd. Some winter losses are experienced every year, but last winter they were not very significant. Here's a forecast for the upcoming gun deer season provided by DNR biologists from around the state. Across the Southern District, wildlife biologists are very optimistic about the 2019 deer season. Thanks to lower antlerless harvest over the past few years and excellent habitat, you should see more deer than last fall throughout the southern farmland zone. Fawn production was good this past spring, and most units offer multiple antlerless permits for both private and public access lands. 10 more counties have elected to participate in the holiday antlerless hunt. Deer habitat types range from the high wooded ridges and coulees in the southwest to the flatter urbanized landscapes of Waukesha, Racine, and Kenosha counties in the southeast. The district also has the rolling southern kettles in the east and the extensive wetland and woodland areas in Dodge, Jefferson, and Columbia counties. This high level of variation in habitat, types, and conditions results in deer numbers that vary dramatically from 1 square mile to the next. Deer are more abundant in the western portions of the district, but excellent opportunities to harvest multiple deer can be found in all counties that make up the southern farmland zone. With its rolling hills, fertile farmland, big rivers, and wooded ridgetops, west central Wisconsin offers some of the most productive white-tailed deer habitat found anywhere. The district's western counties lie within the driftless area, characterized by steep hillsides dominated by oak and hickory, and fertile ridges and valleys planted to alfalfa, corn, and soybeans. This area has some of the highest deer densities in the state, and it's known for exceptional antler growth with some of the greatest numbers of Boone and Crockett and Pope and Young entries year after year. The district also has a great mix of public lands within the central forest zone counties where deer populations are not as high, but hunters still have a good chance at a nice buck and ample opportunities for antlerless deer. Despite record snowfall and extremely cold temperatures last winter, fawn production was very good, with many reports of twins and triplets. Acorns were abundant across the region, providing a good source of natural nutrition to supplement agricultural crops. Persistent wet weather has caused flooding in some low-lying public hunting areas, which may push deer to higher ridges and woodlots. A fifth consecutive mild to moderate winter in most of the Northeast District contributed to strong fawn production this year. Antlerless deer permits have been increased in Shawano, Marinette, Kewaunee, and Marquette counties, and 9 district counties will offer a holiday hunt this year. In Marinette County, the boundary between forest and farmland zones has been modified, and a new metro subunit has been created in Manitowoc and Sheboygan counties. So be sure that your antlerless tags are valid for the area where you plan to hunt. The northern forest portions of Marinette and Oconto counties registered moderate levels on the Winter Severity Index last winter, and the deer populations in both counties' forest zones is still increasing, but fewer antlerless permits will be available this fall. Last winter, the Northern District registered its first region-wide severe winter in 5 years. Deep snow and cold temperatures forced deer into traditional deer yards, but did not cause large population declines. An early spring helped surviving deer recover, but this will be the first year of little or no population growth since 2014. Fawn production this year was average, and bucks that survived last winter may sport smaller antlers this fall. Overall, however, the northern herd came through winter in good condition, which is a sign of a balanced herd with enough habitat to support it. There's abundant public land in county, state, and national forests, and active forest management in most counties provides good habitat for deer. Areas of prime habitat are centered around aspen clearcuts, where regeneration provides excellent deer cover. Hunters should look for any changes in habitat from last year, particularly around timber harvest and oak woodlots. If you don't already have a place to hunt, let's take a quick look at how to find a location on public land all across Wisconsin. Most areas of federal, state, and county forest land are open to public hunting. Other public access lands include managed forest law and forest crop law lands open for public hunting, and voluntary public access lands leased for public hunting. All other properties are considered private land, and you must have permission to access them. You'll find public land open to hunting in the Public Access Lands Atlas, available in book form and on the DNR website under keyword Maps. Unless you're new to deer hunting in Wisconsin, you've no doubt heard about chronic wasting disease, an always fatal disease of deer, elk, and related species. Here's Brian Richards, CWD project leader for the National Wildlife Health Center in Madison, to remind us how CWD is transmitted and offer advice on how we can help reduce its spread.
Chronic wasting disease is transmitted via uptake of infectious agent. CWD positive animals are shedding that infectious agent, or rogue prion protein, throughout their bodily fluids, including saliva, urine, and feces. So through close physical contact, including nose-to-nose contact, it's fairly easy to see how that infectious agent can be picked up by a healthy, naive, susceptible animal. So if you are doing anything, including baiting or feeding, which brings inordinately large numbers of deer into the same space and time, if one of those animals has CWD and is actively shedding that agent out into the environment, we enhance greatly the risk of transmission at those sites. To date, there are no known instances where CWD has breached that barrier and caused disease in humans. However, the bulk of the science conducted suggests that there is a small positive chance that CWD could cross over into human hosts. It does not, however, indicate that CWD will transmit into a human disease. Hunters often ask whether they should be concerned and what type of precautions they should take regarding the consumption of CWD positive meat. The World Health Organization has been very consistent since the 1990s and recommends that no portion of any animal with a transmissible spongiform encephalopathy, including CWD, enter the human and/or animal food chains. The United States Centers for Disease Control also has published guidelines and recommendations out there for hunters. Their recommendations are that if you hunt in an area where CWD is known to exist, that you strongly consider getting your deer tested. And if that deer tests positive for CWD, that you should not consume any portion of that animal. One of the most significant precautions that hunters can take is with regard to carcass management. It's very possible that a hunter from northern Wisconsin could come down and enjoy deer hunting as they always have in north central Iowa County. Very easy to suggest that if they kill that big 3.5, 4.5-year-old buck, that deer may be carrying CWD. If they take that deer back home to northern Wisconsin, butcher it up the way they always have, and then discard carcass parts, bones, hide, things like that, out in the environment, there's a strong potential that action could inadvertently move CWD to northern Wisconsin. We suggest that they take carcass parts to a landfill. Make sure those parts end up underground as opposed to out on the ground where they constitute a disease transmission risk.
To find a landfill or other approved site where you can dispose of deer carcass waste, visit the DNR website, keywords deer waste disposal. Some of these sites are paired with CWD sampling stations. And as we mentioned in the forecast, DNR staff will offer in-person sampling at several locations on opening weekend. Elsewhere, there are self-service kiosks for CWD sampling and dumpsters for carcass disposal, some of them funded through the Adopt a Dumpster program. Doug Duran explains how the kiosks and dumpsters make it easy to provide a sample for testing and dispose of carcass waste.
So what we have here is a self-service CWD testing kiosk. DNR was looking for volunteers and places to be able to put one of these kiosks. And then along with that, we raised some money to put dumpsters out for deer carcasses so that we weren't leaving those possibly infected carcasses out on the landscape. Simple directions that you follow. Hunters bring their deer in, tag it, remove the head, fill some information out, put the head in the bag, put that information in there with it, zip tie it shut, drop it in here, and then I take it to Black Earth to the lab or over to Rockbridge to one of the cooperators who does the extractions. The reason it's important to have the right location is so that they can map the spread of the disease and the prevalence in particular areas. If a hotspot shows up where suddenly there's a lot of positives in a particular location, they're going to examine that a little bit more. So once a hunter processes their deer, often they're looking for a place to get rid of the bones, the carcass, the head, and those are the spine and the head are the things that we don't want out on the landscape if they're CWD positive. So what we did with the dumpsters is give them a place to dispose of that properly. On the DNR website, each one of the kiosks was listed and each dumpster location was also listed for proper disposal. The reaction from hunters has been really interesting. The dumpster that we had here, of the 200 plus or minus deer that were put into it, probably 2/3 of those were deer that weren't tested. But we had plenty of folks who brought carcasses in. If I was here, I'd talk with them about it. And the responses were everything from, I'm going to eat it anyway, I don't want it tested. I don't know, or I don't want to know, or I don't care, to, oh, I didn't know it was that simple, I'll do the next one. The good news is we got carcasses off the landscape, whether they were CWD positive or not, or whether they got tested or not. There were a lot of people who were just happy that we had a place where they could dispose of the bones properly without taking them out in the back 40 or throwing them in the ditch along a township road. It's easy access from the highway. You know, it's very visible from the highway. I feel like we're getting more testing because it is convenient. If we make it easier for folks, they're more apt to do it.
Before you head into the woods this season, be sure to sight in your rifle, pistol, shotgun, or muzzleloader. You can do that at a number of public and private ranges around the state, including several state-owned facilities. Many sportsmen's clubs and shooting ranges are open to the public, and some hold sight-in clinics prior to deer season. And whenever you're handling a firearm, whether you're hunting, target shooting, or just carrying it from one place to another, always practice the 4 rules of firearm safety, summarized by the acronym TAB-K. Treat every firearm as if it is loaded. Always point the muzzle in a safe direction. Be sure of your target and what's beyond it. And keep your finger out of the trigger guard until you're ready to shoot. Remember, Safe hunting is no accident. Shooting accidents have declined thanks in great part to many years of required hunter education. But unfortunately, tree stand accidents are on the rise. In fact, as many as 1 deer hunter in 3 will fall from a tree stand sometime during his or her hunting career. If you hunt from an elevated stand, use a lifeline to get up and down the ladder. Maintain 3 points of contact as you climb up or down, and wear an approved safety harness whenever you're in your stand. You'll find all the segments in this year's show and more on the Deer Hunt Wisconsin YouTube page. I'm Dan Small. Thanks for joining us, and have a safe and successful deer season. This area has some of the highest deer densities in the state, and it's known for exceptional antlerless growth.